Welcome to my sci-fi stories. If you love thrilling sci-fi tales, subscribe now and hit the bell so you never miss an adventure. Let's get into it. The thunderous echoes of war shook the very foundations of Fort Iridan. The once proud Velmaran stronghold, which had stood against the might of the Solmara Empire, now trembled under the relentless assault of the Black Order. The walls were shattered, the gates lay in ruins, and the final bastion of Velmara's forces had been forced into the inner keep. Smoke and the scent of burning stone filled the air. The corpses of Velmaran knights and Solmara warriors littered the blood-soaked ground, some still smoldering from magical fire, others frozen in expressions of terror. Through the ruins of the breached fortress, the Black Order marched forward, silent, unstoppable. At their head, High Inquisitor Malakar strode through the broken gates, his golden eyes glowing with an unnatural intensity beneath his cracked silver mask. His cape billowed behind him, his enchanted greatsword dripping with arcane energy. Behind him, the Five Dreadlords followed, their mere presence warping the air around them. Vashel, the Phantom Blade, flickering in and out of reality, his twin swords stained red with Velmaran blood. Iskara, the Bone Witch, her fingers raised toward the sky, whispering in a voice older than time, summoning the dead back to life. Kalar, the Storm Tyrant, his staff crackling with lightning, his hands weaving a storm of destruction. Zephon, the Void Walker, unseen, but his presence felt in every shifting shadow. Morvale, the Iron Juggernaut, his massive plated armor reflecting the dying torchlight, unshaken, invincible. The battle was reaching its final phase, and the Velmaran forces were running out of time. Within the keep's central war room, the remaining Velmaran commanders gathered, their faces grim with exhaustion but burning with determination. King Alden stood over the war table, gripping the hilt of his emerald-etched sword. His once pristine armor was dented and blood-stained, yet his spirit remained unbroken. "We make our last stand here," he declared. "If we fall, Velmara falls." Marcus Cruz, standing beside him, reloaded his Magitech rifle, the blue energy cell humming as he slammed it into place. "Then let's make them regret ever coming here." Ryan Cook leaned against the table, wiping blood from his forehead. "We've got one chance, but it's risky." Kevin Scott, the team's tactical scientist, pushed forward a blueprint. A Magitech-powered war mech stood on the schematic, its steel-plated body reinforced with mana cores, its arms designed for both ranged artillery and melee combat. "Project Titan," Kevin said. "It's unfinished, but if we can get it online, we might stand a chance." Ryan grinned, despite the circumstances. "Then let's light it up." The inner walls of the keep trembled as Dreadlord Morvale reached the final gates. With a single punch, the enchanted steel buckled. The second punch shattered it entirely. Velmaran archers unleashed a final volley of energy-infused arrows, but the Black Order moved forward undeterred. Dreadlord Kalar raised his hands, and the sky answered. A storm of crackling lightning crashed down upon the Velmaran mages, breaking their barriers, sending bodies flying. "They're coming through," a Velmaran knight shouted, raising his shield as Black Order knights flooded the entrance. At the heart of it all, Malakar strode forward. "End this." Marcus felt the shift in the air before he even saw Malakar move. One moment, the High Inquisitor stood at the shattered gates. The next, he was directly in front of Marcus. A flash of steel, Marcus barely raised his energy blade in time, Malakar's greatsword crashing against it with the force of a hurricane. The shockwave of the impact sent Velmaran knights staggering backward. "You fight well," Malakar said, his golden eyes gleaming. "But this ends now." Marcus smirked, blood trickling from his lip. "You first." They clashed again. Strike, counter, parry, dodge. The air crackled with power, their weapons clashing like thunder. Malakar was stronger, faster, more precise. But Marcus was unpredictable. He fought like a soldier, not a knight, not a duelist, but a warrior who had survived countless battles. He used the environment, throwing debris, dodging under broken beams, forcing Malakar to adjust. Malakar swung wide. Marcus ducked, rolling into a crouch, firing his Magitech pistol at point-blank range. The plasma round struck Malakar's cracked mask, shattering it completely. For the first time, Marcus saw his face, scarred, battle-worn, and for the first time, Malakar looked surprised. Then he smiled. Impressive. Then he vanished. In the back of the keep, Ryan and Kevin worked frantically, adjusting mana cores and stabilizers. The massive Magitech war mech stood like a sleeping giant, its armor unfinished but deadly. Come on, Ryan muttered, hitting the activation switch. The machine shuddered. Then, its eyes glowed with power. The siege mech came to life. Ryan grinned. All right, let's have some fun. He climbed into the cockpit, the control panels lighting up. The Titan war mech stepped forward, its massive frame casting a shadow over the battlefield. Dreadlord Morvale turned toward it, tilting his head. Then, the mech's Magitech cannon fired. A blast of raw arcane energy struck Morvale dead center, sending the armored behemoth flying through a fortress wall. For the first time, the Black Order hesitated. Ryan laughed breathlessly. Oh yeah, this is gonna be good. The battlefield exploded into chaos. Ryan piloted the war mech, unleashing Magitech-infused artillery on the Black Order. King Alden fought against Dreadlord Vashal, their blades clashing in a flurry of sparks. Mike Morgan led a final counteroffensive, pushing through the enemy ranks. Meanwhile, Marcus faced Malakar once more. The High Inquisitor was no longer playing. His attacks became relentless, each strike forcing Marcus to his limits. Marcus knew he couldn't win this fight alone. Then, Ryan's mech fired another blast. The energy strike slammed into Malakar, sending him skidding backward. For the first time, Malakar looked at Marcus with something almost like admiration. We will meet again. Then, he vanished. The Black Order, seeing their leader retreat, began to withdraw. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. The sun rose over Fort Iridan, its light struggling to pierce through the thick smoke still billowing from the ruined walls. What had once been a mighty fortress now bore the scars of the Black Order's assault. Entire sections of the outer walls had collapsed. The eastern tower had crumbled from sustained magical bombardment. Bodies of Velmaran soldiers and Black Order warriors lay scattered across the field. Inside the makeshift infirmary, Dr. Catelyn Morgan worked tirelessly with her team of healers. She leaned over a wounded Velmaran knight, her gloved hands stained with blood as she performed a mixture of earth medicine and magic-infused healing. Breathe. Damn it, she muttered, applying pressure to his wound. The battlefield medics had already given him a pain-nullifying elixir, but the damage was severe. A young mage beside her hesitated, his spell flickering. Focus, Darren, Caitlin snapped, her exhaustion barely hidden. You're channeling too much raw energy. Direct it toward the broken ribs, not his bloodstream. The mage nodded, recentering his magic. The knight's breathing stabilized. Caitlin exhaled, wiping sweat from her forehead. She looked around. The infirmary was full. There weren't enough healers or supplies to treat everyone. And the next battle was already on the horizon. Inside the fortress war chamber, a ragged but determined group of leaders gathered. King Alden stood over the battle map, his expression grim. The Black Order has retreated, but they will return, he said. And next time, we may not survive. Marcus Cruz, still bandaged from his duel with Malakar, rolled his shoulders painfully. Then we don't let them regroup. Ryan, arms crossed, smirked slightly. I like it. Take the fight to them. Kevin adjusted his glasses, scanning recent intelligence reports. We intercepted Solmara military communications. Their supply chain runs through the Sorvan Valley, a highly fortified trade route that funnels war materials directly to their front lines. Marcus leaned in, studying the map. If we hit their supply lines, they won't be able to mount another full-scale attack for months. Mike Morgan grinned. Cut the head off the snake before it bites back. Alara, standing quietly, traced her fingers over the map. Sorvan Valley is heavily defended, not just by soldiers, but by magical wards, enchanted watchtowers, and fortresses built to withstand long sieges. We would need to strike fast, destroy the supply convoys, and escape before reinforcements arrive. Marcus nodded. Then we go in with a strike team. No prolonged battles, hit, burn, and retreat. King Alden's eyes hardened. Then Velmara will strike first. We march at dawn. Sorvan Valley was more than just a supply route. It was the lifeline of Solmara's war effort. Hundreds of supply convoys traveled through its roads daily, carrying weapons, food, Magitech cores, and military reinforcements. Heavily armed fortifications lined the cliffs, equipped with mana-infused ballistae and arcane sensors. At the valley's center stood Fort Luther, a massive military depot housing thousands of soldiers and critical war resources. This was where Velmara would strike. Marcus spread the attack into three major objectives. The artillery strike, crippling the defenses. Ryan's team would position the Thunderstrike cannons and the Titan war mech at a high-altitude location. Their first targets? The watchtowers and anti-air defenses, clearing a safe route for Velmara's main force. The sabotage team, collapsing Fort Luthair. Mike's infiltration unit would enter the supply depot under the cover of darkness. Their goal? Plant Magitech explosives at key points, setting off a chain reaction that would obliterate Fort Luthair. The main assault, cutting the supply lines. Marcus and Alara would lead Velmara's cavalry and infantry in a full-scale attack, disrupting the supply convoys and eliminating Solmara reinforcements. Once the explosives detonated, all Velmaran forces would retreat before Solmara could mount a counterattack. King Alden studied the plan, his expression unreadable. "It's bold. It has to be," Marcus replied. "We win this battle, we cripple Solmara's ability to strike back." The king nodded. "Then we march at first light." At dawn, the Velmaran forces moved out. The mountains around Sorvan Valley trembled as Ryan activated the Titan war mech. The massive machine's eyes glowed blue, energy surging through its reinforced frame. The Thunderstrike cannons were locked onto their targets, ready to fire. Ryan cracked his knuckles. "All right, let's light them up." The first shot fired. A thunderous explosion rocked the valley, a Solmara watchtower crumbling into dust. Seconds later, Velmaran archers rained energy-infused arrows on the supply convoys, destroying carts loaded with weapons and food. The attack was swift and brutal. Alarms blared throughout the valley, Solmara war horns sounding as enemy soldiers scrambled to respond. Inside Fort Luthair, Mike's team had already infiltrated the storage chambers. "Charges set," one of his men whispered. 3 minutes until detonation." Then the alarm sounded inside the fort. A Solmara officer had spotted them. "Intruders!" Mike drew his Magitech rifle, shooting the officer in the head before he could react. "Shit, they know we're here." The entire Solmara garrison mobilized, storming toward the supply depot. Mike grabbed his communicator. "Marcus, we're compromised. Detonation in 2 minutes!" The battlefield erupted into chaos. Alara's battle mages unleashed storms of ice and fire, engulfing enemy reinforcements. Marcus weaved through enemy formations, firing precise headshots, cutting down Solmara officers. Solmara's warlocks fought back, sending deadly arcs of magic that shattered Velmaran defenses. Then, "Fall back!" Mike's voice crackled through the communicator. "Explosives are going off. Now!" A chain reaction of Magitech explosions erupted throughout Fort Luthair. The entire valley trembled as storage depots detonated, sending shockwaves that ripped through enemy formations. Marcus turned in time to see the entire central fort collapse in on itself. Velmara had done it. They had crippled Solmara's war machine. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, share with fellow sci-fi fans, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of the journey. Stay tuned for more adventures. Here is another video I know you will enjoy.